I want to thank everybody again for coming. Like I said before, I'm Nathan King, the Integrated Solutions Manager for Verizon Equipment, and Matt Leonard is also a solution specialist with us, but he's not with us this week. His wife had a baby early on in the week, so he's home taking care of them. But also with us today is Jade Gross, one of our solutions specialists. He lives right north of Irwin. And then we also have an intern working with us this year. Lucas Berry is working with us on a part-time basis until he's finished with school. Probably going to see any one of us or hear from any one of us this spring. And hopefully Lucas will come on board with us full-time at some point. Just going to touch on what we're going to go over today. First of all, we're going to talk about the importance of data collection. Jade's going to kick off talking about not only the importance of the data itself, but also the importance of good data. So I know we're always in a big hurry to get rolling in the spring, but there is a huge benefit in taking just a little bit of time to make sure we've got all of our documentation filled out correctly. Then Lucas is going to touch on display setup. So we're going to touch on how to get that information set up in the display so we do get good data on the back side. And we're going to also touch on section control optimization. We're going to show you the differences between how a 2600 versus a 2630 looks with section control and swath control, and then also some theory behind how to make changes and why we make those changes. And then I'm going to touch on some changes that we're going to see at the Stellar support level, specifically for SF2 users. And then we've got a couple handouts for you. And then we're going to wrap up with just some data collection efficiencies, specifically for the 2630. So with that, I'm going to kick it off to Jake, and he's going to talk about data.
Yeah, I just want to start off with this slide, give you guys kind of looking you up on how much money we got invested on and with precision equipment. Guidance, got around $8,000 to $12,000 invested in that. Planner components, I chose the number 20,000 for the shutoffs, the controllers, displays, and receivers we got, making the shutoffs work, and precision parts on the planner. Spare components, the shutoff valves for the boom sections. And then yield monitoring equipment average, when you guys are buying new combines or combines, you're actually purchasing the mass flow sensor, moisture sensor, and stuff that's just basically precision equipment. This puts us at a grand total of about $60,000 on these four pieces here, just in precision equipment. So just kind of wanted to start off with that, give us an idea about the large amount of dollars we got invested today. This is a few slides here on the return on investment of the equipment. I chose AutoTrack for an example. This is being used on a 1,000-acre operation using AutoTrack with spring tillage, fall tillage, anhydrous, and spraying, and seeding. This gives us a grand total of about 6,000 acres that we're totally going over. And with AutoTrack, it's going to save us about 6.5 hours, so just in time. Threw up some numbers on cost. Basically, I use this off this formula here, and it gives us about a 3-year turnaround. We'd have that $12,000 back in our hands over 3 years with just guidance. So kind of gives us an idea of the return on equipment. Go over some 3 basic advantages: maximizing our operation and equipment efficiencies. Like I talked about before, AutoTrack assisted steering gives us more monitor options and controls, reduces operator fatigue, and minimizes our overlap. This also gives us a chance to look at our grain samples, see what's coming in the tank without having to put all of our focus up front, and letting us look at our implement and what we're pulling, keep an eye on our planner, make sure we're not bunching. I don't know if you guys have ever been pulling the planner around and all of a sudden you catch something, and you look back and you're like, oh gosh. It gives us a little more time to keep focused on what's happening behind us. Number 2, maximizing economic inputs and outputs. This is using section control to reduce our overlaps, in turn reducing our inputs. Providing on-the-go tools to monitor hybrid and variety tracking. This is where we would overlay our variety maps in the spring into our harvest monitor, so when we're harvesting we know what variety we're actually combining. On-the-go rate control. Number 3, precision information ag analysis. Most important here, using the information to make better management decisions in the future. Storing that data, guidance patterns if we want to be running the same guidance patterns in the same field year after year, in like a strip till situation. And analyzing the layered results to make better decisions in the future, kind of what I've been talking about, overlaying a yield map over a soil map, kind of helping us make better decisions in the future.
Brian had mentioned when he was up here about that article that he read, you know, it's pretty common knowledge now that the seed companies are saying that they're pretty well tapped out in technology. So this, especially this last one that Jake touches on, this data that we start collecting and we start storing and revisiting is going to become more and more valuable as some of these seed traits change. You know, we may be limited on how much yield increase we're going to get from seed itself. So it's going to be more about our practices and our decisions that we make.
Evaluating info from all operations. They got some examples there of some different operating systems. This is kind of throwing it all into one source. How we can get our aerial applicator maps to make sure it was sprayed. I know some of your guys' co-ops or custom applicators might be using a different system that you are. Just getting the maps from them and put them all into one system. Information infrastructure, how and what information are we needing, so you guys kind of have a goal on what you're wanting for your maps and what you're wanting to do with them. Quality control, garbage in, garbage out. This is when we're in the field and it's field A, B, kind of just throwing it together to make the screen work, having the wrong variety input. This is where if we're not putting the right stuff in, we're not going to get a decent map to use. And then, as I've been saying, making economic and agronomic decisions from the data that we're collecting. Group data analysis, this is commonly known as benchmarking. This is where companies will throw all this data into a pile, and this is where you can compare what hybrids work on what soil types. Today, how's the industry managing risk? 90% of the growers do not process their own data.
Back on that group data, are you saying you're going to be doing some of that, or?
This is just what guys are doing with it today.
Just
how we get that information.
Yeah, and just we put that in there because we know people are doing it, and that group data analysis, you know, that information that's in that group is only as good as the information we put into it. So that comes back around to when we first sit in that cabin, we take that time to fill out our display information. The more time we take and the more accurate we make, that makes this analysis at the end of the year a much more valuable tool.
Like I said, 90% of the growers today are not processing their own data from their displays. 50% of these growers have purchased GIS software, which for deer would be Apex. 80% of the planters are variable rate compatible, but only 20% of the planters are only utilizing the variable rate seeding. So, why such the low numbers? It's difficult to prove returns on some of this stuff. Complex data management, and a big one is management inexperience. And then, like Nathan, we've been beating in your head a proper display setup, making sure our maps are correct, and calibrations. But us as Horizon, we're here to help you guys make sure that we're putting in the right information, trying to make it easy for you. Good practices to already have all your client farm and field set up in your screen before you go to the field. And if you got an idea of what variety you're going to have that you're going to be planting, just already have those in there so they're easy to select.